And we're live, finally. So, welcome to our Brno Expat Centre webinar this afternoon. Today we'll be focusing on kindergarten enrolment. So, welcome especially all parents or even children if you're watching. We will be presenting some key information for you if your children are now of the age when you're considering sending them to kindergarten, preschool, crash, whatever you may call it. First of all, I would like to welcome our lovely guest, Anita Hansen. As the surname suggests, she has not only Czech but also international heritage, and therefore she's an ideal expert as a kindergarten headmaster herself on the landscape of kindergartens in Brno, because she actually runs some of them herself. Welcome, Anita, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Could you perhaps tell us, first of all, what is your international experience?
Definitely. So hi again, and my name is Anita. I was born in Brno, but my father is Dutch, and then I married a Dane who is half Taiwanese. So it gets complicated, but Brno is very close to my heart. So once I had my own children, I wanted to be close to my family, and especially my mom, who helps me a lot, to be honest. So we went back to Brno, we came back, and that was the time when I was looking for daycares myself. And it wasn't really the things that I wanted, so I was forced to start my own and fulfill my dreams. And just now I can control everything, and I'm very happy. So that's my background, that's why I'm here, and that's how I got to the daycares.
Wonderful. I completely understand this approach. You're looking for something, you can't find it, you start it yourself. Brilliant.
Yes.
Now, for all the lucky expats who are here in Brno and have children to send to kindergarten, you've perhaps already had an idea that it's not exactly the easiest thing to do, thanks to Czech bureaucracy and other things. So that's why we're here today, to help you with the process, at least a little. We're going to go through some of the key topics, which you're going to see on the slides. If you have any questions, feel free to write them through the Facebook chat, and we will get to them towards the end of the webinar, all right? So let's go, let's shoot. First of all now, what are the basic facts? What are the key things that govern basically children's existence in kindergartens in the Czech Republic?
Mm-hmm. So in the Czech Republic, we have public or private daycares, or kindergartens. So we have to, it's good to know all possible information before you kind of go on with your steps. And that's great, you know, like the seminar, or there are many websites or blogs that you can follow. And in terms of the Czech school system or the daycare system, you have to take several things in account, like the age of the child or the concept that you want to follow, that you want to educate him or her in. So in the Czech Republic, most kids go to the daycare around age of 3, which considered or compared to the rest of Europe is quite late. I think it's partially also because the parents can stay longer at home or working part-time jobs, if that's the possibility. So you have to consider the age, the concept, then of course the legal requirements that are necessary to enter a school or daycare, like for example the vaccinations that are according to the Czech vaccination plan, allergies or any special needs that you might have. And then you decide. So that's how it works in Czech in terms of age and the concept. And then what is probably necessary to say is that when the child turns 5, they are obliged to enter the school system to kind of socialize them and get them ready for school. So that's when you have to be already set at the daycare.
I would just perhaps add that all the key pieces of information are also included on our website in our list of guides. If I can basically show you, are we sharing the website now? All right, brilliant. So if you go to our homepage and you click on I'm an Expat, you're going to see our extensive list of guides, and in the section called I Have a Family, you click on schools, and this will show you a comprehensive overview of all the different school steps. So obviously, if we choose kindergarten from the menu on the left, you will see this whole text speaking about the different things, including, for example, the legal requirements in case you're interested in reading all the legal documents. Now, basically, when you decide to bring your child to kindergarten, what are the ages? Well, you've already mentioned that from the age of 5 it's actually compulsory. You can start usually around the age of 3 in the case of most Czech mothers. However, expats very often want to do this a bit earlier if they want to return to their job and so on. Now, you've mentioned also that there are both public and private kindergartens in Brno. Could you perhaps describe the key differences of this landscape?
Yes, so that might take a bit longer, but I think it's necessary to know that. So I would like to say that there are definitely advantages and disadvantages to both. None of them is perfect, and the public one, of course, has a big advantage of the financial aspect because it's almost for free for the parents. Usually the meals are paid separately. Usually there is a little fee that the parent gives to the daycare monthly, but usually, or most of it is subsidized by the state. However, yes, of course, you have to sometimes lower your requirements or your dreams because there is one teacher usually per 24 kids, sometimes 2. Each classroom can hold 24, sometimes even 28 kids. And then there is this 1 or 2 teachers taking care of them. So naturally, they can't give them as much attention as the kids would like, maybe. So that's one thing. Then the public daycares very often are closed for the summer or for the vacation, or they have a kind of switching daycare system so that in the area there is always a daycare that is open for 2 weeks, and then you kind of switch to the other one for 2 weeks.
Oh, I remember that one. That's quite a nightmare.
Yes, it's quite a challenge for the kids sometimes.
Indeed.
Yes, which is understandable. So you know, there are these things that are good to consider when you're thinking of the public one. Then very often they don't have such freedom in following some concept, or they have kind of the topics that they have to cover in a year, and there is not so much chances for the creativity in terms of the topic or the concept. Whereas the private ones can give you more chances of this. You can decide if you would like, if you would like Waldorf or Montessori or bilingual or fully English or fully French, depends on what the city has to offer or the area has to offer. So that's about the concept. Then they also accept kids younger because in the public one, the kids have to be without nappies, which, you know, usually when the kid is 1 or 2 years old, that's not the case, which is, again, of course, understandable. But there are just requirements that you have to follow. And the private ones, they understand that the younger kids need a different type of care. There are more teacher per the classroom. So usually the classroom is, if the classroom is 24 kids, there are usually 3 or 4 teachers. So the ratio is very different. And then the concept, of course, very often they offer more extracurricular activities or trips to go around. And it's definitely best to look at the website or even get in touch with the director. But also I advise to do that ahead of time.
Yes, so if you're considering bringing your children to kindergarten, in a way, there's never too early to start looking.
That is true.
Now, let's get to the public kindergarten's enrollment process, because it's not that difficult as it used to be, let me assure you, but nonetheless, it's useful to take you through the steps, we think. So I would sort of show you, first of all, the key website which you will go to. If you can see it on our guide here, it's zapisdomys.brno.cz. So it's like a subsidiary of the Brno City website. This website opens, as you can see. It's in Czech, but thankfully it already has an English version. So if we switch to the English version, this version will open, and what we see first of all are the key dates. Anita, can you sort of break down the dates for us a little?
Yes, definitely. So here you can see the dates are getting very close because we're talking about approximately half of April until half of May. And that's the term when you apply, when you enroll to the public daycare. This website is very nicely done and it's very useful. I also have the experience that a few years ago it wasn't the case. So this helps you a lot, especially because it's also in English, and you cannot miss those dates. You issue this application. You can do it online in this system when you log in with the number of the child, rodné číslo, and then you fill in your application. It pops up, and then you give it to the school in person, or you can send it via your data mailbox or via post. And then you are waiting if it works out. Sometimes you might be also asked to come in person with the child. Sometimes it's, as a little interview, sometimes like a play date kind of at the school, at the daycare. And then you're waiting for the results, and then there is the results, the evaluation of applications, and the results are end of May. And then either it worked out, good for you, if you chose that school, or it could be that it didn't work out. And then you might be looking for other daycares, which are usually private. And then, to be honest, end of May and the beginning of June, there is panic among the parents, because maybe they didn't think that that would be the case, that there would be so many kids enrolling, and then they're looking for private daycares very, very quickly. Yeah.
It's important to note that while you're filling out this application form, and when you're sending it, it's not just the application form itself that you're going to need with the basic information of your child, but there are also some extra documents that are needed as appendices of this application form. Now, what documents are they, and how do you obtain them?
Yes. For example, some of them are from the child's pediatrician. So the application should have that signed from the pediatrician. And then usually you also give as an appendix, appendix, the rodný list, the birth certificate of the child. So these are needed, definitely. It's always good to have a certified copy of all these important documents with you.
Yes. Now, once you've sent the application form and included all the appendices, here I might add that if you have any difficulty figuring out which ones they are, please refer to our guide that we've already mentioned, or write us an email and we'll help you out. And now you're waiting for the enrollment process. That's if you decide to go to the public kindergarten. Now, what do you do if you'd like to choose a private one?
So the process is a little different. Again, it depends on what the policy of the private daycare that you chose is. That would also be actually one of the differences between public and private, because public one, you have these dates in the April and May that you have to follow, and then you have the results, and then you start in September, and that's it, usually. With private ones, there is a bit more freedom, if it's possible, if the spots are not fully sold out, kind of. Yeah. Because we do understand that there might be families maybe coming in, as for example, expats to Brno or any other city, or because we we accept kids from 2 years, or like our daycare, for example, accepts kids from 2 years, and the private ones, some even from 1 year. We understand that the child doesn't turn to 1st of September. It might be that they turn to in April, you know. And then the mom is waiting, for example, to start her job again for the 2nd birthday, and that happens to be April. So we are trying to help in this process. So with the private one, it's definitely good to get in touch with the director. You can also have a look if the schools or daycares offer an open day, so-called, so that you can go have a look. It's also, sometimes even the public ones offer it. The private ones usually do as well. Usually it's 1 or 2 days a year, so it's not too many. It's good to have, you know, to keep it in mind and check their website from time to time. Usually you also need to register to that day, so they know how many visitors that they're coming to expect. And yeah, sometimes it gets a bit chaotic because you have, you know, 60 people coming into the daycare and they all want to ask questions, but you don't have so many staff or so many colleagues to answer those questions. And then, of course, they see all those toys, so it's like a big playroom with a lot of noise. But yes, of course, it is a way how to gain more information and kind of the feel of the daycare. So that's good to have to be the first step, and then you can ask for a meetup or to have more questions with the director or some other colleague of the management. And then each private daycare has their own rules, kind of. Usually then you talk about the contract and about the rules and the concept of the daycare, so both parties are happy about it, and then you continue with that and kind of set up the date of the start, which again, if we can, and I'm kind of talking on behalf of all the private daycare owners, if we can, we do try to be more flexible with that to give them a better start.
Well, when choosing a private kindergarten, you also have the advantage of technically choosing a kindergarten either near your house, but also perhaps near your workplace. There are different parts of Brno where, for example, different expat workplaces are concentrated. In the case of Anita's schools, there is Spielberg Office Centre, there is Vilniana and others where the branches are located. You can decide to drop your child off on your way to work. However, if you'd prefer to have your child attend kindergarten locally, to have sort of friends who live around the corner, or friends with whom they will eventually end up going to primary school, then you might be looking for the kindergarten which is near your house. And this brings us to a very funny term. It sounds funny to me even in English, but anyway, let's speak about it. It's called the catchment area school, and that's the system that applies in Brno. And at first glance, if we look at the kindergarten enrollment website here, it looks like this funny map with lots of dots. However, for your information, I do recommend that you check out this map. On the website, you will see here the button which says Open the GIS application. And when we do that, hopefully the map will open. And you're going to see the map of Brno with lots of funny, colorful dots. Yes, it's a GIS application, so it does take a bit of time to load, but it seems that we're lucky with the connection today. So here we go. This is the map of Brno with all these funny squares, the colorful squares, which are the different kindergartens. And either you know where you live, sort of you scroll, or you basically kind of zoom in depending on where you live. You find your address, or you can just use the magnifying glass and enter your street. And basically that way you will see which is your catchment area kindergarten. So in this particular case, for example, let's say if you live in Botanická Street, you can plainly see that all the houses in Botanická Street, or in this section anyway, have these purple dots, and that means that they are linked to this purple kindergarten, whereas if you cross Gotlarska, hey ho, Botanicka, the other half, has green dots, which means the catchment area kindergarten is right here in Tučkova. So this basically tells you which is your catchment area kindergarten depending on where you live. This is basically important only in the situation where, as we mentioned at the beginning, the catchment area kindergarten is obliged to accept your child when they're 5. Now, if we skip back, if your child is younger, 3 or less, what are your options?
So if the child is 3, then the municipality should be obliged to accept the child, to find a spot for him or her. Sometimes it's not the case, and then when you get the denial, the not accepting letter, then you can appeal to the municipality, to the authorities within 15 days. And then they kind of try to find the spot. But, sometimes it doesn't happen. So if that doesn't happen, or if the child is younger, then your only options are either nannies or family or so on, or the private daycares. And then very often what happens is that once the child is already used to that daycare, and also the parents are, and if you're happy, then even once the child is of that age to be ready to go to the public daycare, very often that they decide not to even apply anymore. But yes, this catchment area that serves for the kids that are 3 or older, and then once they're 5, then they must be guaranteed the spot, but also the parent must send the child there. Once they're 3, then they should have the spot for the child, but the parents are not obliged to send the child. So that's also probably good to know for the parents if they decide, maybe some days we want to keep the kid at home, we go for long weekends or anything, then that's fine. But once they're 5 years old, then they should be spending at least 4 hours a day at the school, at the daycare, kindergarten, to really be ready kind of for school.
Now, if your child, for example, is enrolled in a private kindergarten, and just as Anita said, they're happy there, and you would perhaps be happy to leave them there until 1st grade. Does that work that way? Is it this simple, or is there a catch?
It is possible, but there is a little catch. There are things that you have to, look for and ask around. So the private daycares, there are also several types of private daycares in the Czech Republic. Some are, I would say 3 main. So one of them are not accredited by any ministry. They're more freestyle, so that could be like a forest group, in Czech like lesní klub, lesní klubík. That is a community or a group of kids led by someone who could be a pedagogue but doesn't have to be, and you trust them and you kind of pay them a fee to be with the kids and hopefully prepare them for the next years. It's not really controlled by any ministry. It doesn't have to fulfill many requirements that other schools have to, but it does have, it might be an option, for example, for the parents that are not really in favor of vaccinations, because they can accept kids also that are not vaccinated according to the Czech vaccination plan. So that could be an option. Then there are 2 other types of private daycares, which are dětská skupina, which it's a private daycare, but it's just it's a little different word in Czech, and that could be like a kids group daycare, kids group kindergarten, and those are controlled by MPSV, which is the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs.
Yeah. Precisely.
And those have to also fulfill some standards. The ministry comes in for regular checks, and we also have to fulfill some legal requirements, for example, as the age of the child, the ratio of the teachers, the vaccination confirmation, also confirmation from at least one of the parents about the workforce, joining the workforce. So that would be the dětská skupina. And then there is a private daycare, which is under Ministry of Education, MŠMT. And it could be very similar with the dětská skupina. It's just under different ministry, and the legal requirements are basically the same. In these, you can stay until going to school without really solving anything, without worrying anything. In lesní klubík, not really. And then in the one I said in between, the dětská skupina, you can also stay there, but not every dětská skupina has that option, because the dětská skupina has to fulfill requirements by law. For example, enough pedagogues and higher quality standards and so on. And not every dětská skupina fulfills that. So even in the beginning, when you're looking for the daycares, it's good to ask, do you also offer this last year of preschool? Yeah, and then you kind of have the picture if you can stay there for until the first day of school. For example, all our daycares in the Spilberk, Vlněna and Orly, we all offer that preschool year, and many kids actually stay with us until going to school. We will be having a nice party now in June to send them off. So, for example, we offer it, but not every daycare offers it. The process how to do this for the parent is very easy, though. What you have to do is that you announce it to the catchment area school that we talked about, catchment area kindergarten, you announce them that you are having your child educated somewhere else. You don't have to ask for permission or anything, because that used to be, a gossip around and people worrying that maybe the director will say no. It's not really up to them, and they just want to know that the kids are fine and safe and educated somewhere else. And you announce it via an email or, again, by post. And then they get in touch and they say, okay, fine, thank you for letting us know. Sometimes they want to maybe meet you up so that you sign some papers. Sometimes they want your child to come in with you just so that they can, talk to them briefly. Sometimes they also ask for some worksheets from your private daycare to just see that there is really some work done. And that's totally fine, and it's not really anything for the parents to worry about. That's up to the teachers. So, for example, also again in our daycares and in the other daycares that offer this preschool year, there should be like a little portfolio being done where the teachers put the worksheets of the kids and maybe some pictures, and on the back side they write, okay, we can see that now they also add eyelashes or ears, and that means this and that. So really the parents don't have anything to worry about. It's up to the teachers, and you just talk to the director. Okay, we announced it to the catchment area daycare, and are you making some portfolios? Yeah. And they'll tell you yes, and all good.
Yeah. And if the preschool is actually not accredited by any ministry, the parents would still like, for example, their child to remain in like their forest kindergarten until the age of 6. What then?
That might be a little difficult, because it's definitely the best to talk to the director of the catchment area school. There will definitely need to be some steps done. For example, they will definitely want to know that there is some progress made. They might give you some homework, kind of, worksheets to be done at school. So it definitely is about the discussion, the communication with the director.
Okay, so those are the catchment area kindergartens that you may or may not need to communicate with when you're actually filling out the application form, and you're afraid that your child might not get into the nearest one. Feel free to fill in option 2 and option 3. It's completely permissible. So you can you don't have to bet on just one. You can actually choose 2 or 3 and hope that perhaps if one is too full, you might be lucky with the nearest one nearby. So don't despair. Now, there are some obstacles, as we've heard. What if you really want to send your child to kindergarten and your child is still younger than 3?
Mm-hmm. You mean so that you're fine with the private one?
Which means that you can't
Yes.
send them to
Yes.
a public kindergarten.
Yes. Some public kindergartens accept kids even when they're younger, from the age of 2. But again, they will be quite negative towards the nappies, for example. And that is only if the capacity allows it, which, let's be honest, especially in the cities, is not really the case.
Mm-hmm.
So then the private ones are an option. The dětská skupina, the group daycare, the group kindergarten, or a creche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there are actually creches in Brno too, not that many. But if I refer back to our Brno Expat Centre website, you can find a comprehensive table or spreadsheet of all of the private kindergartens. Let me just check where it is. Oh, there we go, private kindergartens. So you will see this big spreadsheet which tells you about all the different kindergartens, private kindergartens in Brno and even outside. If we scroll to the right, you can see that it also shows the different ages of the children, the times, and in some cases even the approximate financial burden that you might have to carry if you send your child to a private kindergarten. What is the approximate sort of ratio, or rather the radius of the funding that you need to prepare if you want to send a child to the private kindergarten?
So it definitely depends on the age of the child and how many days a week you would like to send them. And then, of course, how many extracurricular activities they join. Also on the meals, because for example, the private daycares don't really have it subsidized, and also most are more worried about healthy meal options, so it's more expensive. But if we count it all in all, like in total, in Brno, the radius is probably starting around 8,000 Czech crowns a month. And the most expensive ones in Brno are around 30,000 Czech crowns a month.
Okay. So you can see you still have a choice. There are schools that are Czech speaking, there are schools that are bilingual. Obviously, as expats, you might be interested in the bilingual ones especially, and the spreadsheet clearly shows these options. We're slowly coming closer to the end of the questions that we had prepared. However, there is definitely space for your questions to be answered. So if you haven't typed your question yet, you can do so now. And I will just finish with one last question, which is already linked to the transfer of the child from kindergarten to school. So if your child is already 5 and they're attending their compulsory final year of kindergarten, but you still sort of think you would prefer to deter their entry into primary school by 1 year, which is legally possible, what is the process to achieve that? Sometimes expat parents actually choose this option in order to give their children 1 extra year of practicing Czech, so that they can then function more easily in their local school, which is definitely advisable. So what can you do?
Yes, so the step is that you can't just decide on your own that you feel like your kids might benefit from that. There are a few steps to follow. It's definitely good to start with PPP. So pedagogicko-psychologická poradna.
Coming back, sorry, I'll just jump in quickly.
It's a very long
again, coming back to the guide on kindergartens on our website, you can see a link to PPP is right here. PPP means pedagogicko-psychologická poradna, the pedagogical psychological counseling center. And again, you can see that on the website you can switch to English, and Yeah, what follows then?
Yes, so you have to book a meeting there with your child. And the catch is that the waiting times are extremely long, which I completely understand. The assessment of the child, if done well, it's not, done in 10 minutes. But you basically have to have the results from the PPP in your hand when you are going to apply for the daycares or for schools, sorry, for the school, or ask for the deferral.
Yes.
So if you have to have it in your hand in April, because for the schools it's half of April, the period of the applications is not as long as for the daycares, and you have to have it in your hand half of April, and the waiting times are several months. So you might want to give them a call in autumn, the year before. It's always also good to talk to the teachers and the director of your daycare, what they think. They sometimes might write some notes down. Sometimes even the PPP sends a form for them to fill in, kind of about their opinion, because the PPP sees you for a few hours, but the teachers see your kid for every day. So it's definitely good to call them. Then they ask you for a meeting. Usually it's just the child in there, and they do some assessments, some also worksheets, puzzles. They talk. So it could be also, the deterring could be done based on language or emotional, emotional progress.
Support,
or just how ready the child is in all the different parts of life and aspects of life. And then they give you this assessment, and if it's confirmed, that's good, because that's what you wanted. And then you have to provide it at the application to your school. It should also be signed by the pediatrician or the child psychologist. And then the director of the school has to assess it. It's not guaranteed that it will be accepted. And then they inform you if it is accepted or not. And then you can stay one more year at the daycare of your choice. So yes, there are many reasons why it could be advisable. Sometimes, of course, it's a fun fact that in the Czech Republic, we have the highest percentage of these postponing schools in Europe. So now there are many talks with the lawmakers and education professionals about being these rules much stricter. So we can expect probably some changes. Now it's around 25% of kids that have this deferral, and about 2/3 of those are boys. And I think the percentage that they would like to get to is around 3%. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think the reason why they want to make the conditions strict is that they don't see a problem in the kids, but rather in the parents, who want their children to be in the playful age for a bit longer when they don't really need it anymore. But anyway, it's always up to you. You're the parents. Now let's see if there are any questions. Okay, the question now. Ahmad is asking, if parents miss the public kindergarten enrollment deadline, does it mean we should wait for the next year's unless we don't consider a private kindergarten?
It's definitely good to get in touch directly with the director, because sometimes there could be spots, and sometimes you can talk to them that maybe in the half semester kind of there could be some placement. We did have some kids that were moving away, and they were going to public daycare in the village where they moved. I don't even think there was a private daycare around it. And they found a spot in January or February, so like half year kind of. So definitely get in touch. It's not like all lost, but it's more complicated.
All right. Oh yeah, this session is recorded, so if you or your friends who have children have missed this webinar live, they can still watch it through our website and through the recording, yes. Okay, the next question. Do foreign kids born in the Czech Republic require extra papers in addition, such as a proof of residency from the Ministry of Interior, from MOI, which is like the office?
For the public daycares, I don't think so. I'm not sure. I'm not completely sure. But if they're born here, then they have the birth certificate, the kids, and then they live here, so they go to the catchment area school. And with the private ones, no, we don't need that, an extra paper.
Okay. The next question. To enroll in a public kindergarten, both parents and the child have to have an address in Brno, or does only the child need it?
That comes, there is a problem called the catchment area tourism. And I think the lawmakers are also kind of fighting against it. Now I read news a few days ago that they're trying to set up that they will check how long the address was registered for that person. So it's enough if the child has that. And what happens sometimes is that the parents, ask their friend or a family member or someone around the catchment school that they want to give the permanent address to him or her, so that they could have the priority for that catchment area school. So I think it's just the child that needs it. I'm not 100% sure because I'm not in the public school system, but
no, you're right.
Yeah?
I think
Okay.
you're right. They
Problem,
don't check the address. I mean, yes, the address of the parents is actually included in the application form, obviously, but it's the permanent address of the child which is actually decisive for the child's placement. Yeah, the public kindergartens have a system of points, and there are a certain number of points for the address, a certain number of points if, for example, the older sibling of the school of the child attends the kindergarten, etc. So yes, it's the address of the child that plays a role. Okay, any further questions? Dimitris is asking, what are the working hours of kindergartens, and are they available during weekends? Oh, I wish. All right. Is there some minimum or maximum time the child has to stay there?
So each KG has different work hours. I don't know about many that work during the weekends, but there are sometimes, for example, in hospitals, there are daycares which are directly for the employees, and they sometimes work even at night or during the weekend. But regular, I don't think so. Sometimes it's like from 6 to 5, 6 to 6, kind of the work hours of most people. And then is there some minimum or maximum time the child has to stay there? No, there is not. It definitely depends, again, on the communication with the staff, because logistically, from our practice, I know that it can be difficult if, for example, the parents would like to pick up the kid any time of the day, and then you're planning the activities, or kids are resting and so on. So each daycare definitely has some time windows when to pick up or bring the child in, but there is no minimum or maximum. Only in the public ones, when the child is 5, like I mentioned, they should be there for 4 hours a day, unless there's sickness and so on, so that the daycare kind of has the guarantee and the peace of mind that they prepared the child for the school.
All right.
So that's for the minimum, and the maximum, of course, the opening hours.
Yeah. Okay, any further questions? No more comments or questions at this point. In any case, if you'd like to find out some more information that would support you in your parenting, be it for babies as well as older children, you're more than welcome to join the workshops focused on children at the upcoming Brno Expat Fair. The Brno Expat Fair is planned, and it takes place on the 12th of April, very soon, at the Tržnice building at Zelný trh. And there's a comprehensive program of lectures and workshops beside, of course, the main exhibition area. So if you'd like to gain some more information or tips how to read with your kids or how to handle them better, feel free to check out the program at livinginbrno.cz. We're very much looking forward to bringing this live event to all the expats of Brno, not forgetting some performances, and I know that there are going to be even some children performing on the stage of the Old Town Hall, so that's going to be very lively, I'm sure. So that's the invitation from our side. And finally, I really want to thank you, Anita, for coming and for answering all these questions. If you have any further questions, feel free to send us an email or send Anita an email at the Spielberg or Wonienka or Orly kindergartens. It was lovely talking to you today. I hope you found what you were looking for. Good luck with your children's enrollment and have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation and good luck with everything.